Oh man, what a interesting lead up to this stream we had. So I always try to start at the latest by 9 something, and I woke up at 9:30 because I set my alarm. Right after I turned this on, well, I had a hard time like getting out of bed because that happens a lot when I have the alarm. It's hard to like just will myself out of bed, but I was able to. Then after doing that, I started to have a bit of a stomach ache, which is not a common occurrence for me. I can say that. And as I was like sitting there for that minute, I was like, oh yeah, I know I can't hold this in for that long. So I used the restroom and now I've returned, seemingly rejuvenated. Um, Today's the what is it 22nd 9/11 anniversary. So some of the news stations were talking about it. Like I said, I have no direct memory of that because it happened when I was less than 4 years old. But man, I'll never forget the day that they caught Bin Laden. It was like one of the very few instances where just everyone was so happy and celebrating and cheering and jumping around, and there was like a real sense of national unity. And I remember that came right around right before the 2012 election. So it came during a period where it was like extremely partisan, and that's why it still probably stands out so fresh in my mind. Yeah, I can't help but mention that I just prefer this so much over the Starbucks stuff. I really just hate sitting out there for several reasons. Sometimes the weather's not good because I've said before over here it really does fluctuate. Case in point, yesterday, extremely hot, very warm. A lot of people didn't want to leave their house because of how hot it was today. And this is around the same time where it's like that like late morning kind of approaching afternoon time slot. So by 12 or 1, the sun's fully out and everyone's getting burned up. Um, but today, like, no sun. Like, that's why I said the weather over here is so inconsistent that you almost wouldn't even think yesterday happened. Like you would just think, oh, it's like fall or whatever. So of course it's going to be colder. No, we have days where it's still hot, even in December. I'm pretty sure it was last Christmas where it was just very, very warm, or the one before that. Excuse me. So I really just kind of get irritated having to go out in that weather because it's not comfortable for me. Yeah, somebody can get mad, but it is what it is. No, I usually don't even bother trying to like go out and do stuff when it's that warm. It like the warmth I should say of yesterday made me really regret not going for a 5 or 6 a.m. walk because trust me, when I do those, uh, I like them because just no one's outside usually, and I can kind of like the weather tends to be more consistent. It tends to be kind of cold, kind of cool. So that's one of the reasons why I prefer that time slot for doing that. I was actually I mentioned on when I before I had to cut any other stream that the video I'm currently working on is called The Decline, and it's about just the lacking qualities that people have in comparison with what I think they used to. I'll tell you, it really has shown the full extent of writer's block. It's been very difficult to come up with stuff for it. Like I said, for a lot of times, I'll have a very easy time coming up with an idea. Like, yeah, I want this to happen, right? Um, when I write a synopsis or summary, whatever. But then the actual execution is where things start to fall apart. So that's what tends to get me tripped up. But again, we'll see what happens. I think if I really try to focus on it, I might be able to finish it this week. I'm not going to make any promises because, like I said, script isn't even close to being halfway done. But I'll try to take another crack at it after I finish here. Like I said, writing is it's something that I can say for the most part I enjoy, but you'll never catch me trying to pretend it doesn't get irritating at times. Because what the true problem is that in a lot of instances it's difficult to just come up with something and then be expected to wrap it all up or finish it all off or see it through to its fullest extent. And I remember distinctively that I was on the phone with this friend of mine yesterday and just talking about stuff. And a lot of times we have these conversations, they tend to go in several different directions, but the general beat of the dialogue is always like people they can do some really insane things and think it's normal. They can tell somebody something that is completely false. I have a person who for example tried to reprimand me for eating a type of food a certain way. And when I say I'm talking about like preparing it a certain way, even though on the instructions of the same product they're chastising or attempting to chastise me over it, tells you to make it this way. And I was just saying to this person that no one else would get caught up in weird stuff like that except them. They're the only one that would try to like poke their nose in something like that and then not know what they're talking about. To boot, like the two things don't go together. Where you can't pretend to care, but then not care enough to actually look into what works and what doesn't. I was gonna say I really like some of the coffees they have at the market. Like they have little Starbucks glass container ones, for example. But I was thinking about it and I said, for one of these, and I've already said before, I just think coffee in general is overpriced. But I was like, for one glass container of coffee, which is clearly meant to be, drunk in one sitting because of how small it is, it's like $4. I said, well, hell, I can get a whole damn what, two things of milk for that price. Uh, I can get what's something else, some lemonade for that price. I think two of them they might go for maybe three each, but so I said a lot of products like would they like because I get it, $4 might not sound like that much, but what it's for is what, like, for example, if someone was selling a book for $4, I would, and I was interested in the topic, I would get it because I know the book's gonna last me sometimes months, years. But when you're talking about, some coffee, like a little container of coffee you can hold in your hand and finish off in like less than 10 minutes, I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, their minds are definitely poisoned by social media. Only a terminally online person will get hung up over that. Well, I have a section in there at the start where I talk about how the internet's influence on regular people can have effects on them that extend beyond the computer. Like, we live in an era where it's very common for a female to, and this isn't even like just a romantic thing, but a lot of them do this thing where they'll talk to somebody for a few weeks or months and just out of the blue stop responding. And because we're conditioned by the internet to think it's always our fault when something goes wrong, you might start second guessing yourself. Hey, did I say something that upset her? Did I do something that offended her? Because, why else would she abruptly stop speaking to me? But then, I gave you the example of how there was this woman I was speaking to. We had these several hour long calls twice, right? And then out of nowhere, she just starts ignoring me. She just won't respond to me. And I'm like, this is so weird. What's going on? She's like, oh, I didn't feel like talking to you because I'm being harassed by my ex. And I'm like, so because of a guy that I have nothing to do with, you thought it made sense to ignore me? And of course, the lying bastard said that she wasn't going to do that again, and she's been doing it ever since. So, we know her word means about as much as a counterfeit dollar. But I'm just saying that's an example of how before knowing her reason, I was like, oh, did I do something wrong? Did I mess this up? Because again, the internet encourages men to have low opinions of themselves, to think that they have done something wrong if something doesn't go the way they want. We've seen the same thing when we've talked about the employment situation. You have jobs, as we've talked about before, that have a hire to fire belief system where they hire people, they have them for a few weeks, a few months, they squeeze all the labor they can out of them, and then they turn them loose and go to the next person. Or jobs that just won't hire anybody altogether. They have hiring freezes. And I'm not kidding. When, if like, reading some of the stuff people wrote about me makes me want to vomit, talking about uh, maybe you're not qualified for the positions you're seeking, as if I'm seeking to be the CEO of Microsoft. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that type of weird, it's always your fault mentality only started from the internet. I don't have people in real life that stick their finger, you know, in front of me, or like, you should have done this. Like that. There's very few that do that, and it's mostly crappy family members, and it's mostly like the same two or three people. It's only when you go online that there's like this extended oasis of people who are all trying to dump on you for the sake of, I don't know, feeling better about themselves, giving you some unrealistic goal to reach. Just I don't know what all their reasons for it are. I just know that, if prior to the internet, you most likely would have never come in contact with these people, and I think would have been better off for it as well. No, the internet has absolutely created a generation of individuals who, I said before, they honestly don't even act like human beings. Like in real life, I don't have people that if I don't want to talk to them, I just abruptly stop responding. Or, oh, here's this woman I'm not attracted to. Let me send her messages about how important she is to me, and I don't know what I would do without her, and all this other, just like the purposeful attempts to build somebody up to be something that they're not, which is the idea that they mean something to you, and then throw them away at a moment's notice. People like to imagine they have the perfect solution to everything, and so anyone who doesn't make their decisions a failure who should be shamed. That's how contemptuous some people are. Well, like I said, the internet is what allows them to do this. Like in real life, when you apply for a job and then you don't get it, you don't have a series of people going, maybe you weren't qualified for this position. In real life, if you go up to some woman and ask her out and she says no, you don't then turn around the corner and then there's like two, three guys talking about maybe you're too ugly and maybe you don't have enough money and maybe you like just that's what I'm saying. Like this weird negative reinforcement only started through social media. Dude, you'll never understand how upset I am with that one broad, man. I make this point in the video. It's like I always hated the friend zone, right? But I said, look, this one is not anyone I'm trying to do anything romantic with, whatever. Like there are just chicks I'm not attracted to in that way. Like, let me just speak to them. We have a decent dialogue, we have some things in common, and then all of a sudden she just stops responding. Just abruptly won't say anything back, no answers. And then for a while I'm like, did I do something wrong? Oh no, I'm being harassed, which by the way, what's really funny about that is she had mentioned to me before we had our first I guess audio conversation dialogue call, whatever term you want to use to describe it, that she had been dumped for no reason. So you get where it's funny that she made it sound as if the guy was just ready to throw her away, like whatever, but then apparently not if he's supposedly harassing her. And she wouldn't explain what this harassment was. And I don't care. I'm just upset at the fact that I got the boot for something that had nothing to do with me. That's just I don't know. I just think the whole thing is insane. And like I said, it's going to be a long time before I try to lower my guard with one of them again. That was awful. Dude, I swear, like I've said before, like most of the woman stuff is not new. We've seen it happen before, but I'm really trying to think of a time where there was one of them who did something like this before, where like they stopped speaking to you abruptly. Like that's happened before, right? But where the reason and it's something that has nothing to do with what you did. Like I that really might be unprecedented. I can't think of any other instance where that's happened because that's just how weird it is. Yeah, like you ask some girl out, she says no, and then there's some group of people sitting there saying you're ugly, you're not good enough, you don't have enough. Yeah, you don't have that in real life. I tell you, in real life, actually, I don't even know any guys my age besides like one who's with a woman, and it's you know what I'm saying that like in real life actually there's I'm just noticing more and more there's like a unwritten like we don't sit up and talk about it, but there's like a lot of guys that are single, just a lot, who are just not with anyone, like just perpetually by themselves. They don't go and ask out any of them. And I said I noticed that from like back when I was in high school, just like how there would be in a whole class maybe two, three, four couples, and then the rest of the guys just were with no one. And then even some of the chicks, um, would usually, if they had a boyfriend, it was like someone that went to another school, but a lot of the guys just were not with anyone. In fact, most people in public wouldn't realize you were asking a girl out because they're doing their own thing. But that's what I think is so funny about this, like, over this like big fixation on appearance. When you go out in real life, because I just want to just say this, I guarantee you have a specific, like, for example, after the stream, I'm going to go to the market. I'm not going to notice if somebody's wearing sandals. I'm not going to notice if like if someone's got on a tank top, long sleeve shirt, whatever, unless maybe I stop in front of them, and I wouldn't care enough to even comment or say anything to them about it, because my main objective in going to the market is to get food. It's to get my groceries or various things that I need to last me throughout the week. It's not with the purpose of like, I wonder if I will meet someone when I go up here. Like, and that's what one of the problems I have with these people. They really think that if you're a guy, you just go everywhere seeking chicks and you have this like, no, I don't think about them as far as like when I go somewhere at all. Like if I see one I think is attractive, I might look, but that's it. There's no grand campaign of how I'll make her mine, or if I, because I already said before that like a lot of that woman stuff is just extremely toxic. I'll put it that way. But yeah, most people would not notice if you went to somewhere and asked out a woman, unless maybe she screamed or, like purposely drew attention to herself. But if you just go up and ask a woman out or inquire or whatever, you're not going to have some big, backlash. Again, unless the woman does something to draw attention to it. It's just not worth it to me. There's peace and solitude. I already told you the problem for me is that too many chicks do the same stupid stuff. Like that's really my short answer, that too many of them do the exact same thing, to where I just have no interest in talking to them in that way ever again. Like I said, if I could take you back to that sweet period of 2015 to like probably mid or early 2017, it was almost like being in a circus where people would parade their different animals around. You get all these different chicks, different in quotations, right? And you meet them on all these different websites, Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. And I swear it was as if they just started blending together. Hey, here's woman number one. Oh, she's nice. Oh, she just abruptly stopped talking to me. Okay. Oh, here's woman number two. Oh, she's all right. Oh, she already has a boyfriend. But she's on a site where people are trying to get a romantic partner. Okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever. And then, oh, here's woman number three. Oh, she already has a boyfriend like the other one. Okay, well, whatever. Oh, here's woman number four. Oh, she just abruptly stopped speaking to me like the first one. Oh, okay, whatever. Oh, here's woman number five. Oh, she just abruptly stopped speaking to me like one in four. Oh, okay. Oh, here's woman number six. Oh, she already is with someone. Oh, okay. Okay, whatever. Just like the other two. Okay, and then, oh, here's woman number six. So it turned into this thing where the differences were extremely unimportant, because it wasn't enough to justify their prolonged relevance as a group of people I engage with for the purpose of getting something romantic. It is a recurring problem. Dude, imagine if I told you that if you wanted to go on a date with a female, just go on a one day occasion, you need to speak to several dozen, if not over 100 women, in some cases for a few days, in some cases for a few weeks, in some cases for a few months. And plenty of these women either have a boyfriend they're not telling you about, they have several other men they're talking to they don't tell you about, they have no desire to do the things that you want to do, but they're not telling you about that. You would say this is insane. You got to talk to all of these different chicks just to get one to go on a date? What? I'm serious when I say this. If I knew that it was as difficult to get female attention, right? Like just basic bare bones female attention, when I first started, like, being interested in girls or women or whatever, I wouldn't have even bothered with any of them. Like if you could make a time machine and go back and tell me that nothing of any lasting substance will come from you being with one of them or talking to one of them or interacting with one of them, I wouldn't have even tried. And that literally is the only mistake I believe I made, even bothering in the first place. That's it. That was my one error. But seriously, they all just start blending together. They turn into almost like a fusion of each other where it's like, yeah, this one may look different, but deep down it's the same old, you know, early to mid 2000s or 2010s, same crappy personality, same flaky uh scorecard of like, hey, I'll talk to this person for a few days, few weeks, then I'll just disappear, start speaking to some other guy. Just that's what they do. I told you that none of those romance people ever want to, like, if you go and watch a romance video where somebody's talking about how to get a girlfriend or how to get a woman to like you or any of the other, nonsense that they write and how to appear more attractive to women, etc. Any of the little like con artist stuff online, I guarantee you none of them ever talk about how many damn men talk to one woman. They will never mention that. And like I said, I think that's one of the biggest reasons this stuff has become so impossible because I bet you I will, Akatsuki merchant, I would make the biggest bet on this that if you were just on the internet, maybe you post a few pictures of yourself, whatever, and you had 5 to 10 different women coming on your profiles and trying to ask you how you're doing and what your hobbies are and et cetera, et cetera, it would be hard for any of them to stand out. Like maybe you have some you think look hotter than others or whatever, that all the because at that point it's just cosmetic crap. But my point I'm making is their supposed value comes entirely from men's overindulgence in them and nothing else. Just felt so bad for Akatsuki Merchant when he didn't get his harem. I already said before that like people will talk about, oh, this man is too ugly and all the rest of that stupid stuff. There are some chicks in this world, and some of them you could call, I would say I don't think are attractive. Some of them I really just think are enormous. Like because there's a difference between somebody being ugly and just overweight. There are plenty of chicks where I would never ask them out at all. Um, so like, and that's one of the reasons why I said when they start getting up on, like over here on that whole like go to the gym nonsense, like some of these chicks are 200, 300 pounds, and you're going to talk about, but that's, it goes back to that same thing of like, women can be whatever they want, but if you're a man, you have to fit into this specific tight box that, just doesn't, just not appealing. And the people who espouse this advice say that because women have to go put in effort to be attractive, men have to as well. And it just shows me they don't believe anything outside superficial validation. But the thing is, there's plenty of women that are not attractive. There are that like you. I guarantee, if you went and saw in real life, you wouldn't even say anything to or want to look at. And that's one of the problems I've had with these people. They pretend like if you listen to their rhetoric, you would think every woman is this uh petite, extremely slim, large chested, uh, like beautiful creation, but they're not, man. I'm not even joking. Like the way these guys talk, they make it sound as if every female is this gorgeous supermodel, and they're not. They're not. Like it's one of the most disingenuous things I've ever seen. Like we live in an era with women who are overweight, with women that are I don't think are attractive, but it's like we have women that are very obviously not appealing to some men like myself. And these guys will still sit here and peddle this idea that all the chicks are so beautiful and breathtaking and oh my lord, and before you could ever possibly hope to get with one of them, you need to improve yourself in these 1 million ways. And it's like, guys, this is what a joke. Like, who are you trying to fool? I tell you, they really think they're tricking somebody. Like some of these guys, I tell you that like a lot of them just are on the computer all day long, terminally online, right? But like they really think the rest of us don't go outside and see crappy chicks. And then they're gonna talk about you need to improve yourself and man, get out of my face. Seriously, like we did a whole thing where every time I'd go to Starbucks, I sit there for an hour, 2 hours. I see multiple women that I don't think are attractive for that reason or others. But it's like these people really have convinced themselves that, oh my god, if you have a triangle, you're just the most desirable thing in the world. It's so gross, man. I feel so bad for Kotsky Merchant. He wanted to believe in the great triangle hope, but it didn't turn out that way. He wanted to think there'd be an era where he could meet somebody, but it doesn't look like that'll be the case. You should be improving yourself regardless of whether or not it'll get you a girlfriend. It actually won't, but that's the big lie. Well, that's one of the reasons why I said that work on yourself is such a goofy thing to me because it's like you're doing this supposedly to better yourself, but then it's only being mentioned ever in the context of trying to get a date with a woman who very often is not doing anything remotely worth the effort. Like I said before, how many of these chicks live in anything besides an apartment building? Hell, how many of these chicks have their own car or a job that pays more than like whatever the minimum wage is? And again, I'm not saying any of that to insult somebody, but it's just like I said, the only thing they have is a triangle and the fact that we live in an era where men are starved of female attention, so they have to like overcompensate by asking out every broad they come in contact with. Damn near. That's it. The big lie that if you meet this arbitrary standard of self improvement, a magical triangle bearer will appear from the heavens. Well, that's why I called it the Great Triangle Hope, dude. They're in like a competition with the other ones because they like there are some people that do the Great Triangle Hope theory, but they don't like try to tell you to improve yourself. They just say eventually you'll meet someone who likes you or whatever. Um, and again, it's like I wouldn't even have a problem with someone wanting to believe that if it weren't for the fact that every time they do this stuff, they tend to be we were talking about like condescending and they don't want to like address anything you're saying specifically. Like when you talk about like being ignored by chicks for years, they're like, you're only this age, or um that's what happens sometimes. And the same person who's telling you that stupid thing, a lot of times if it's a woman, has no leg to stand on because she herself has never had to deal with not being wanted and actually believing that you may spend the rest of your life with no partner, or if you do get a partner, it's going to be someone who has some ulterior motive that is not in was it their main intention is not to actually spend time or be with you. It's to see what they can benefit from via their association with you. It's one of the biggest problems I have with this stuff. Because, like I said, none of it is real. It's all just lies. Oh man, I can't wait to talk to a woman and get her speaking for like 5 seconds before she abruptly stops responding, and then I get blamed for all time and for what she did. You think I'm kidding, man? Sometimes I really do just wake up and I'm like, wow, there's you could go out and see 100 chicks today, and not a single one would ever ask you out or ever approach you. And we were talking about this before, that it's not because you or any other man is some ugly, disgusting bane of the existence of society. No, it's because chicks they don't have to do anything. They don't have to do one. They don't have to lift the finger to have a constant barrage of romantic options and choices. Still laughing at Triple L. At some point, a different caliber of women will ask you out, and there'll be more on your wave. I was like, yeah, which year is that going to be? 4 years later, still nothing. And remember that same Bimbo was talking about, I believe at some point you will prematurely cut off women that are interested. Yeah, again. So I told you that's the funniest thing to me. Like, eventually, women will start approaching you, but then you're also it's going to still be your fault that you're single, because you will prematurely end a relationship with one, or end speaking to one of them, even though, like I said, she has no proof I would do this, because she never saw or heard me speak to any woman besides herself, and I talked to that bastard for almost a whole year. I just think that was one of the most insane like character arcs of like, oh yeah, eventually you'll meet somebody, and then like within that same year, she's like, but you'll prematurely cut them off. What is premature? What are you supposed to wait, a month, a week, a few years before you can finally say, okay, this person doesn't like me? She couldn't answer it. You know what that really is? It's all about like the whole slavery thing of like, hey, you're a guy, so you're supposed to put up with any stupid, ridiculous, brain dead, insane choices by the modern woman. So you don't have the right to stop talking to us. We can stop talking to you anytime we want, but you as a male don't have the right to end it with any of us. You must talk to us forever. You must do what we want. You must bend to our will. You must abandon your dreams in your pursuit of being with one of us. It's a really disturbing mentality. That's all I can say about it. It's like, hey, person that we claim to like and supposedly want to see succeed, we're going to make sure that we tell you not to, actually ever get a spine and like not put up with this stupid thing with chicks. No, you must talk to them forever. You must speak to them for the rest of your life. You can never just get sick of them. That's not allowed. They must have your indefinite, undivided, continuous, sustained attention forever. They really do believe in that stuff, and that's scary to me because, like I said, we really live in an era where, in a lot of people's minds, men are almost like a second class citizen for chicks. Like a lot of these internet individuals, when they try to insult somebody, what do? They accuse the person of being gay or of not getting any triangle. It's like you do that stuff because you believe that a person who is male is fundamentally of a lesser value or lesser accomplishment if they're not considered to be attractive to chicks. Even though at this point, damn near nobody is, which is why we have these record levels of men being single. But I digress. I tell you, one of my other favorite quotations from Triple L was, "I don't know why you would be offended if people thought you were gay." It's like, out of all the discrimination that gay people and LGBT people in general have experienced and still do experience, she was really confused as to why I would be offended by being considered gay. Like that's hilarious to me. Because Akatsuki Merchant, you might remember this, but you know that gay people didn't get the right to marry in all 50 states until less than 10 years ago, right? Like until 2015, if you were a man with a man, woman with a woman, whatever, you could only get married in certain states. So if you live in Nevada, you had to go to California to get married. I don't have the map in front of me, but you understand though why she's a complete idiot, right? That gay people have been discriminated against, not even just like in the US, but across the world, especially like in older time periods. And it's like the fact that that broad has convinced herself because she's another one of these like coastal hangs out with all these Hollywood people. So like I guess she has not seen the discrimination herself, but just anyone who's got a historical understanding of LGBT people knows that it's not preferable to be considered, especially if you actually are not, to be considered a member of that group with all of the anti related beliefs and policies that have just ravaged them as a community. And that bimbo really said she doesn't understand why I would be offended if someone thought I was gay. I told you, man. I You know what? Everybody always says, "Oh, the misogynist men online." I really despise that woman. I despise her not because of her gender, because like I said, there are chicks that can actually say something that makes sense. Um, I despise her because this is a person who came in at the tail end of me saying, "Hey, look, this female stuff isn't going anywhere. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. Whatever." And tells you, you don't have a right to think that you're done with this. I'm not going to address any of the points you make because that's too hard. So I'll just get into these weird discussions of how I think eventually you will start being approached by women, even though women don't ask out men they find attractive. That's a fact. Uh, and I'm gonna also like say that your age is the reason why you shouldn't be able to stop speaking to us. Because we own you. You're our slave. Tap dance for us. Dude, all the discrimination against gay people and that bimbo, that idiotic waste of life dingbat really had the nerve to say that she doesn't understand why I would be offended if someone thought I was gay. She really wrote that. Not wrote it, said it rather over the phone. The other thing she wrote, which was stupid, is the whole, eventually you're gonna prematurely cut off a woman that's interested in you. Because remember, it's always my fault. You could talk to one of these bastards for a whole damn year, and if she doesn't like you back, oh, you should have just waited until 2 years. Do I remember when I was on Discord one time and this person was talking about how women don't feel comfortable when they come on the internet because men are always trying to talk. It's like, okay, well, if that's true, why don't I just block every single one of them on every single site I'm on? Like if they're so uncomfortable and me saying something to one of them is this extremely disturbing thing that they need to be rid of, then okay, we can do that. I don't need to talk to any of them. No, they act like it makes a difference. I already said before, I can't remember the last time that I spoke to one of them and actually felt like it was going anywhere. Oh, the sun's starting to come out. Great. Time for the heat wave to stay in effect. But I think I said before, I one of the reasons I don't like what's a way of putting it, involving, I'm trying to think of a word to use to describe it. I think a big part of the reason I'm as defensive with a lot of that female stuff is that like when they try to talk about it, it's so weird because they don't have any experience with this stuff. They're on the receiving end of romantic proposals that they don't like, but as far as getting the feeling of what it's like to be perpetually rejected and actually like develop the belief that you're just going to spend the rest of your life with no one, uh unless it's a person who's got some kind of ulterior motive. They've never felt that before. They've never had that sense of hopelessness about, you know like, and again, the closest they can come to that is if they just think no man is good enough for them, which is why a lot of them use these dating websites, because they just reject every guy in real life, so they think if they come online they're going to meet this amazing superhero type character. But besides even with that, it's like that's still them saying that everyone in real life is crap and they have to use this like a last resort. You get like that's the closest they come to the whole like hopelessness of meeting someone type thing, but it still isn't the same thing because very often they just don't think anyone in real life is good enough for them instead of the other way around where it's the man believing that he's just not good enough for any of these chicks ever. That's what I mean by they don't believe in anything outside of superficial validation. They think not having intercourse the worst fate ever. Oh yeah. Well, dude, that was what's funny to me about like all these. You remember we had the stupid guy that was pretending to be a woman that was like, I think that they do that where they make like the account and they put the female name. He was like, I think you just want to have intercourse. I'm like, okay, first of all, that has nothing to do with anything we talk about here because we're talking about actually meeting someone who you feel a connection with, et cetera, et cetera. But then it's like they act as if women are these almost nun like figures, like as if when they date men, they don't start, you know, just it's so stupid, man. They act like they don't do that stuff with the guys that they date. Like all they do is just sit there and hold hands and talk to each other for 2 or 3 hours. Like, give me a break. Mm. Dude, I'm telling you, like all that female stuff is just the worst. Like, oh, and it's so insane to me how like we've created because I said before like nobody cares about men, right? Um, we have basically constructed a society where if your gender is male, you pretty much are treated almost like a non-existent thing by the opposite sex. So again, for example, you could be around 30 women a day, 60 women a day, 100 women a day and outside of the one that might be your boss or maybe if you're again if you're working somewhere one of them tries to like ask you about a product, you can count on like none of them to say anything to you. Again, unless it's something business related. Like I remember I went to the market one time and I had this woman come up to me and she was asking me about what kind of internet I use. And I was like, wow, it's sad that like the only way for a woman to feel compelled to say anything to me is again just stuff related to her job. It's just I don't know. It just had me kind of depressed after a while, like because again, it goes back to that thing of how we were talking about the suicide rate of men, and a lot of that just comes from the fact that you have an era where people are not accommodating of an entire gender. They don't there's a bunch of men that don't have anyone that talks to them, that asks them and how they're doing. Just people don't care. And a lot of us can't even get the slightest acknowledgement from chicks. I'm dead serious when I say that. You're more likely to win the lottery than you are to have one of them come up and introduce themselves and ask you for your number. When has that ever happened? I'll wait. But again, it's like they don't ignore you because you're ugly and you're boring and you're a waste of life and all this other just again negative stuff that gets reinforced to you by the internet, right? They ignore you because they have a harem of men that are asking them out, are trying to appeal to them, and so they don't feel like they have to do anything uh because they don't feel, okay, they don't feel as if they have to do anything because everything is handed to them. And like I said, if you flip things around, if I had 10 women asking me out every year or trying to talk to me online, like they make the first move and they're asking all these questions, etc., etc., I probably would never ask out again. I mean, at that point, what would be the point? Unless I just think all the ones trying to speak to me are just crap, which is what happens a lot of times to chicks, that they think, every man that asks them out is not good enough for them. So they try to hedge their bets on, whoever is on a dating website or at a bar or whatever. But I'm really serious when I say that the modern female is just a rancid creation of a time period where having a triangle, and the importance of that has been overinflated. And again, there's like a lot of lonely men, so they play a part in that inflation. But it's just sad, really. Because like I said, I think there's something wrong where if a guy wants to go on a date with someone, he has to ask out 20, 40, 60, 80, 90 chicks on the internet and in real life, and go on this website and sign up for that site and travel over here. Like, that's, again, that's nuts to me, and that's never not going to be weird. I tell you that we just live in an era where uh female attention is extremely difficult to acquire. And like I said, I don't see things getting any better anytime soon. I think the suicide rate is going to keep going up. And there just doesn't seem to be a way to fix this. I find the whole thing to be really sad. Again, it's all consolidated around the central point of people just not caring. They come on here, they talk a good game about, oh, do this, do that, but as far as, hey, are you all right? Have you been okay? Then you would never see it. And as I explained in the in decline, the reason for that is, to a lot of people, everyone they meet online is basically just a plaything. They're stuff they can use for their entertainment. Um, and again, there's channels I watch, I laugh, whatever, but because they can't remember the fact that that's a human being they're speaking to, they have no problem with doing whatever. I mean, some of them troll the person, some of them lie to the person, some of them lead the person on, especially if it's, if you're talking to a woman on the internet. But it's just because the internet, people have become more accustomed to just having these detached views of those that they speak to or interact with. And I think that plays a big role in, again, just the belief, like why there are so many men that are ending their life, because they know that none of these relationships are real. Like, yeah, people say this or that online, but do they actually mean it? They don't. Just like we had a whole conversation about the stupid, whatever that guy's name was, uh Jove or what, the one that was talking about there's always something, it's like those people will come around and they'll try to make it sound as if they care about you, or that they're like, some pimp genius that knows how to fix everything. But in reality, they don't know anything, because they don't have any, and they don't, because they show no proof that they've ever accomplished any of the stuff they're claiming that they know how to do. But also, they're not writing that stuff because they're concerned about your well-being. They're writing that because they want some entertainment. They want to pretend to be some expert online for part of their little role play fetish, and it's just obnoxious. Like, that's why I said I'm glad to be writing this video, because I think people need to be made aware that there is a decline. It's not a physical one. Well, people are living longer lives in America, but there is in terms of the way people treat each other, in terms of the way that people communicate, how they act, even in real life now. Like, all of these things are worse as far as I can tell, they've ever been. And I think it has a lot to do with the internet and its influences on people, to where even in real life they treat things like it's the damn computer. So hopefully I'll be able to finish that this week, and I'm going to go and run up to this market so I can get my very needed items. So thanks for showing up, Akatsuki Merchant, and have a good rest of your morning, or I guess afternoon for you.